Okay, so the first tips I'm going to show you are how to mask your skies and how to bring out the beautiful, vibrant colors that you can capture in these skies. So if you know me, you know that the desert skies are very, very beautiful and important to me, and I want to do everything I can to showcase how beautiful they are in my pictures. And so sometimes that's really hard to do unless I'm masking my skies and I'm able to bring out these colors. So I'm going to show you how to take your photo from this, which is a flat gelatin scan right here, into this. So masking, essentially what it is it's being able to change just a section of your image without changing the whole thing. So if you see right here, I have the sky highlighted, and this is the section where if I click on it, I'm only editing just the sky. So you can see here, I'll pull the exposure down, I can pull it up, I can change the colors, I can change the tint. There's a lot that I can do here, and really it's the combination of being able to utilize all these that really helps the sky pop. So in order to create this mask, all you're going to do in Lightroom is you're going to go over to this Develop tab right here. Then you're going to click on this circle right here, which is masking. Then you're going to click this plus right here, and you'll see there's a few different options for masking your image. And in this one in particular, we're just going to do the sky. So I already have a sky mask, but this is going to select a new one. And Lightroom is pretty freaking good at detecting your skies. However, if it doesn't do a great job and you need to add in a little bit more of your sky, you can just click this plus button, add to mask. You can click the brush, and you can brush in more of the mask that you want. So fairly easy. I would say really the biggest thing that I see with people as far as in like, I'm like, oh, like, man, if they just masked their sky, this could have looked so vibrant, is a lot of times if we go back to this flat scan here, which I love these flat scans because they give me so much control, but initially you'll be like, oh wow, like where's the color? So a lot of times when people edit their pictures, they'll edit it and then they won't have any mask at all in the sky, which makes it look like this, which honestly, this is still really pretty. And it's obviously a stylistic choice, but for my taste, I'm like, wow, like I really want to bring out more of the sky. So if I click on this mask here, usually how I'm doing that is I'm bringing down the exposure. Honestly, just bringing down the exposure can do so much for your sky because, you know, when you're shooting film, you're typically exposing for the shadows and not the sky. And, you know, we want to preserve those shadows as much as possible, which means that sometimes your sky is going to be just a little overblown, which is what happened here. So if you just bring that exposure down, saturation up just a little bit, not too much though, just a little bit, you'll see already that completely transforms my image. So these are my main tips with the sky. I won't get in too deep into this video with it, but I highly recommend just, you know, messing with the exposure, messing with the colors here, and getting that sky to look as close as possible to what you want it to. Okay, so the next real quick tip that I'll share with you in terms of masking is going to be fixing your skin tones. So this is another big problem I run into, especially capturing things in the desert, is that I really want to bring out the beautiful oranges and reds of the background. But then when I do that, I mean, you'll see here his skin looks a little too much like a carrot for me. So, you know, especially people with lighter skin tones, it'll make their skin way too orange. And so in order to mitigate this, we'll go over here to the masking tab. You can see here I actually have my sky masked on this one as well. Click the plus and select subject. So again, Lightroom is pretty freaking good at detecting this. However, if it doesn't detect it quite right, you can always plus or add the mask with the brush here. And then right here, I'm just going to bring down the saturation a little bit. Sometimes I'll cool it down a little bit, just depends. And boom. That to me looks a little bit more manageable. You know, you can brighten the exposure, bring back some of the brightness of it. So yeah, there you go. Pretty simple. So you can see here, this was a tricky scenario where the background was just completely blown out and the foreground was in shade, and this can be very difficult to photograph on film specifically. So how to mitigate this is, let's say you want to change just a specific brightness. So I guess I'll just show you what that means. So we'll come over here to color range, and then I'm going to select just a general area, let's say right about here. Now, any of the pixels in the image that are around the same brightness as that pixel, I can change it, which is awesome because let's say you want to change just the shade of your picture and not affect the background at all. Well, then just you can select different parts of the image and only change and correct those certain areas. So this is super helpful for any image you have where there's a lot of shade and then the background has a lot of sun. And then I also can mask the background as well. And you can really just change each and every part of your image accordingly. So this is super helpful. And the last thing we're going to go over in this video is going to be utilizing the HSL sliders. So I love these. I'm able to do so much with these sliders. So it's just in the develop tab of your Lightroom and go to just these 3 lines here, and then scroll down and your HSL tab will be right here. So I'm just going to kind of briefly go over what each of them means. So we got the hue right here. The hue is really just changing like the actual shade of the color. So let's say these rocks right here are a little bit too orange for my taste. Well, I can just bring this down and you can see how they're changing to be more pink. I can make them more yellow. You don't want to do really too drastic of changes in this typically, but you can see here how I really wanted my sky to be a bit different than what it actually came out as. This is a lot more like cyan and I wanted it to be a little bit more blue. So yeah, typically I'm changing the actual colors with these. Saturation, a lot of you know what this is, but this is just like the actual, I guess, kind of the vibrancy of the color. So if I want my sky to really pop, I can bring up the saturation. Typically for me, I'm actually desaturating things. Like let's say, I want these, orange rocks to pop more. I'll actually sometimes like desaturate the yellows and the greens around it. So that way more of the focus of the image can be on that. So I'd say desaturating is actually a really big thing that I utilize in my work. Luminance, this is just changing the brightness of each of the colors. So for instance, let's say I want the sky to be a little bit darker. There you go. Make it brighter. Typically with luminance, what I actually do with this one a lot is, let's say I want like this shadow right here to pop a bit more. Well, I'll just decrease the blues. Usually shadows are blue or purple. I'll decrease that. And now that shadow pops a bit more. And if I wanted to refix the sky, I could just mask the sky and bring it up a little bit. So, whatever you change in one part of the image, you can always fix in another with masking. So yeah, you got to be a little bit careful with these. If you mess too much with the luminance, you'll start to get some like weird noise. So you can see that just looks totally unnatural. Or if you bring things down too much, you can see how noisy it starts to get there. So be cautious with that. Don't do anything like too drastic with those, in my opinion. But yeah, utilizing these 3 is really how you're going to eventually, in my opinion, find your style. I have very specific colors that I like to have in my pictures. And so HSL is a really great tool to use, and I highly recommend learning how to use them more.